Buenas, aquí estamos en otro Casting Strategies. Hoy vamos a entrevistar a Jim Osman, que es el CEO de The Age Consulting Group, una empresa americana especialista en análisis fundamental y, sobre todo, análisis fundamental sobre empresas en situación de spin-off, empresas con problemas de estrés financiero y situaciones especiales que venden a inversores institucionales y también individuales, sobre todo a muchos hedge funds que invierten de acuerdo a sus research, y nos va a hablar un poco de todo lo que es invertir en situaciones especiales, empresas con estrés y toda la línea que un día Joel Greenblatt pues escribió en su libro. Hi Jim, how are you? Thank you very much for being here with us. We are totally happy that having you here in the show, and we are going to start asking you about why you are working in this field. Why spin-offs, special situations, stress credit company? Why did you focus in this kind of companies, your job?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when you find the answer, let me know. No, seriously, I think over time I've always been a little bit different. I've always wanted to, go outside what was the mainstream, really, whether it's, when I was a portfolio manager or when I'm, selling research. I think I always want to find what's different out there. And I think the area of spin-offs and the area of dislocation and corporate change has always interested me because, you can't systematically analyze it. And what I mean by that is, you can't put numbers into a machine and it comes out the other end and you can make investment decisions on it. You have to really understand what is going on in the situation, why, and a number of factors such as management, such as the changes that take place, the changes that might not take place, how it ends up, what's down the line, what's the future. And to me, that area has always interested me. And, we've made a business out of it for, 12, 13 years now. So, and it still continues to excite me.
Yep. Thank you, Jim. I got a question also. What do you prefer in this type of investments? What do you prefer, a concentrated portfolio or a diversified portfolio? And why?
In this sort of area, I think, it really depends on your goals. I think that there's plenty of fund managers who do very well by taking small, very percentage changes, positions in their portfolio, and they win. And I think that, they manage risk that way. And there's other portfolio managers who would take, 10 positions and claim to hold them for a longer period of time until the catalyst plays out, and they win as well. So, I mean, it really depends on your goals. I mean, but as I guess your audience is more of a smaller investor and a more nimble investor, I'm sure they haven't got 100 positions. I'm sure they're looking at 5 to 10 positions. And I think this space, suits that. There's specific catalysts within each event. And as long as you understand that, and as long as you understand the downside, if the catalyst doesn't play out, then I see no reason why 5 to 10 positions for a small investor is not plenty, and there's not more than enough. So I think this space suits that more than more of it, because you've got to remember that you're normally banking on a major event in the stock, whether that event is a spin-off, whether that event is some sort of other catalyst. Then you obviously want to make the most out of that, and specifically maybe it does suit more concentrated positions.
Okay, you are talking about companies with are living some kind of events, no? It could be one special situation or could be whatever event, no? What drives you to say that it's good to buy this kind of companies, this special company in this kind of situations, and how much pain you bear to get some premium in these companies?
So you're asking me, sorry, why is
Imagine that we find one company in this is having a special situation, this one company, What do you look for saying, okay, this company is a buy?
Yeah.
You know, I say you can buy this company in this special situation because we think that it has something that is good, so we are gonna say buy.
Absolutely. So I think you got to look beyond the numbers nowadays, right? I think there was specifically in spin-offs. I mean, 20 years ago, when maybe I started looking at these, maybe even longer than that. I think it was, how is the company now, and how is the company post the event, and what do those numbers look like? And back then, you'll add up the numbers; they'd be worth 5. You'll add up the numbers post break up, and they'd be worth 7. And it was a natural buy. And I think, things have become a lot more sophisticated since then. And I think now you need to do a lot more than that. And you need to look at what's really going to actually drive that, what's really going to make the move from price to value. And that can just not be valuation. I mean, everyone gets valuation nowadays. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I mean, anyone with a computer model, it's even online, you can see the values pre and post spin. So what do you add? And as a research firm, what do we add more than that? And what do we look at? I mean, we're looking at a number of things. We're looking at whether it will actually happen, the probability of that happen. We're looking at the management. We're looking at other moves in terms of indices where it might be bought or sold in terms of the event. We might look at the more macro environment in terms of the actual business post event. We might look at the structure of the new companies and a lot more. So I think that, as I'm kind of hearing to so far, I think numbers for me have become less important, and experience and seeing what potentially could happen is a better is what we look at, really.
Okay, and in regard to because in this situation, these kind of companies where you expect a good catalyst, the idea is that very often we are going to find that these companies can have high volatility. So how do you bear that? Is something that you put within the portfolio and you count on that?
It depends what you view as volatility, right? It's a relative term. I mean, in terms of, let's go back to spin-offs again and stick on that. I mean, in terms of the larger companies, I mean, you do tend not to see much volatility when they spin off. I mean, you tend to see pricing pretty much as you predict it, sadly. And the goal for me really is not to capture, or the goal for me, for our clients, is really not to capture any sort of short-term volatility. It's more the long-term. I think volatility is interesting. We've seen some of that happen in a few recent spin-offs. But where they're a little bit smaller, but I think it's a good opportunity to the ability to accumulate these spin-offs for the longer term. And let's face it, we're a long-term buyer of these situations, really. Although we can talk about some that have gone the other way, but ultimately we're looking for that short-term volatility, really, to accumulate positions. And I think that's where the investor will have an edge on these sort of, because the analysts aren't covering them. There's no widespread coverage either, and you're going to get an opportunity if you really believe in what you do. So that's what I think short-term volatility is used for. But again, there's different people who do different stuff. I mean, there's traders out there. I mean, if they can evaluate, or if they can find, like your smaller guys find the valuation, and we provide that on our smaller product. But if they can find valuations post-spin, and they can see great anomalies, which we've seen 20-30% moves in the first couple of hours. I mean, why not? Hey, profit's a profit. If they can accumulate stuff, accumulate stocks, sell them in a few hours and 30%, no one's ever going to kill you for making a profit. So, there's no, don't let everyone tell you that I'm an investor and not a trader. I'll take 30% profits in an hour every day of the week. So that's kind of my philosophy on that. So you use more for investors for a longer term position, and short term, it's a great way of potentially making a lot. I mean, I don't say potentially make a lot. You get it wrong, and you could be 30% down. So that's my idea about that.
Actually, I like what you say, because I am a big fan of George Greenblatt, and I remember his early career, and he was talking about spin-offs, and especially because spin-offs per se, the universe of spin-off a way profitable field to invest. And actually, but at least from my perspective, to identify to spot good opportunities within that universe of spin-offs, it's not that easy. It's for me at least. I think this is quite tough. But of course, you have to look for this kind of catalyst that you were talking about, and that makes you a great investor because you are able to do that. In my case, it's quite tough.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but yeah, I agree. But you got to look carefully nowadays. You got to look. Just going on to the Greenblatt, and I'm sure you want to know about. I'm sure all your readers know about the Stock Market Genius book, and they're all claimed to have read it. But ultimately, do you understand that? Do you understand what you're actually doing? Do you actually understand the concept of the fundamentals, the technicals, and the insiders? And and how do you analyze it? Moreover, and I think that he highlighted that in such a simple way that people will gloss over it. But it's certainly been some interesting points for us really over the years, and we still do that to this day. But much more in depth, I'd say, than people might think.
Yeah.
Okay, you are talking about spin-offs and you are talking about credit distressed companies, but you are talking about other concept that is special situations. And can you define which is a special situation of one company and place some examples? Imagine one big company buying other big company. Could be this one special situation, like Disney buying Fox, or is not the special situations that are you looking for? Could you define these special situations?
Yeah, absolutely. So I defined a special situation. I mean, it could be a hard catalyst by, and I'm not going to highlight this in my forthcoming book, but it could be hard catalysts, such as spin-off, something you can visibly see, or it could be a softer catalyst, something that is in the background that would take time. I mean, one of the ones that we looked at, which was super interesting, which kind of took a lot of effort for our clients to really understand, and some of them really didn't understand it really, or they didn't buy into it, was Arconic. Now, Arconic was one of those names where it was forced into a spin-off from Alcoa, who your listeners will and your readers will know is a big company, and ultimately, they had some problems year 2 down the line from the spin-off, and the stock fell quite heavily. Now, what was interesting about that for us was there was not any notably hard catalyst. It was a series of interesting moves by the management, and it started off with the CEO accumulating stock out of his own pocket, something we look at the insiders very closely. If they've been any good in the past, why are they accumulating stock, how much stock they're accumulated. And then we looked at some other things. We thought that was interesting, and then we thought, well, hold on, he's creating incentives for himself. And then we looked at his contract, and then we looked at the fact that it was up in a year and he had to get the stock price up to a certain level. And then we looked at there was a lawsuit against one of the parts of the company, and we thought, well, potentially, in our experience, they could spin this off. Now, these was all our predictions, and this is all kind of our thinking and our understanding. And with all this, we thought, it made an interesting special situation, and he could spin off not only, and then when we found out he had some pension debt as well, and we thought that maybe they could spin that off, the lawsuits, all into another company. So we looked at Arconic, and we thought it was interesting. It was cheap on evaluation, and lo and behold, that's one of the better performing stocks. It's up sort of 40-50% from where we recommended it. But also, and it's playing out. They're spinning off. The CEO is gaining traction on his shares, his stock options, and so all those little things, Ivan, point to the right direction. I would encourage your listeners and readers to do that. Don't look at one thing. Everybody knows that one thing. It'll be on the internet. People will buy into that, and before you know it, that's solved out. What are all those little things that make up the wider situation that could make it into something special? And that's what I define as a special situation. So as many pointers as to the right areas you can for your readers and listeners as they can accumulate, and that will be a special situation for us and them, I'd guess.
Yeah, awesome.
It was very interesting that you say that the moves of the management is something that you are looking very, very deep. The moves of the management when something of this is happening in a company?
I think absolutely. I think more and more. I think that the more I look at again, the more I move away from numbers, and look, we still do numbers, but the more I look away from that. It comes down to you. It comes down to me, right? You can turn up every day at work. It's like, well, how do I make this company successful? Am I even incentivized to even get up in the morning to come into work and really drive this company? And do I really care about shareholders? There's stocks where we've issued a short on because I just don't think the management were good enough. They were selling stock ahead of the earnings. Varix was an example, actually, where we didn't trust the management. The CFO was selling 100% of your own stock a month or two through earnings through a mysterious way. Stock drops 20% on earnings. So do you trust the management? Do you trust them? Are they with you? And if you with your readers and listeners, if they ever evaluate companies, they should understand that are the management got incentive for investing in their own firm, and are they acting like they own the firm? And if they don't act like they own the firm, then don't invest. And that's, I'd say, number one priority for everyone nowadays. If you're analysing, have the management got what it takes? You see all these wild restructuring stories and all this stuff, and people got these big ideas. And in the end of the day, what does it come down to? It comes to, have you got it? And have you got to deliver? And if you haven't got the ability to deliver, and that is based on your past experience, that is based on whether you've done it before, that is based on your incentives, that is based on whether you own the company in your personal wealth, that is based on how much of a net worth are you investing in your company. And if you don't tick all those boxes, then I'm worried, because it means that you haven't got 100% in your firm. And then when that doesn't happen, that's a red flag for us.
Yeah. I got a last question, Jim. It's well, now I understand a little bit better your quote when you say that value is dead, because listening to you, I feel that it's kind of, your analysis is kind of an inside-out analysis, So it's pretty interesting what you say. And as a high-end investor as you are, I want to ask you also if you invest out of the market. I mean, kind of private equity, other type of investments beyond the market.
Do I personally, or do we?
Well, or through your company, research. Or research, or whatever you.
I mean, not really. I mean, again, if anyone's going to even go into, private equity field or that sort of stuff, then, they've got to realize, what's their time horizon, right? When do they want things to happen? You talk to SoftBank and he says he's got a 100-year view. Am I in 100 years to spend that money? Not really. So, I just hope that stuff comes a little bit earlier. So, how long do you want it? You're investing private equity for a minimum of 5 years, maybe. And again, do they have the ability to even turn that thing around? So, and I say most people nowadays, sadly, want short-term profits. Well, not sadly, they just do. And again, I'll take it back to my quote where I said I'll take 30% every day in a couple of hours. Of course, we all would. So, as long as you can, I'd always say invest in anything as long as you can afford to lose it. Sounds brutal, but there's too many people got carried away. I saw in the past where it's particularly in the dot-com boom, and I've seen it a bit now in private equity where people think it's the golden goose. Well, there's so much money there, everyone can't make money and a return. So, it's something to think about. So as long as you can afford to lose it and you've done your analysis, then go ahead. But spread your money wisely and spread it in different investments and according to your time frame and your wants. You could get very bored waiting for 5 years if you want a return.
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree.
So, and just to finish, what have an individual investor has to do to use your research from your company?
Right. Yeah,
there is something that I can do as an individual investor if I want to invest with the research of your company?
Absolutely. So, we have a couple of products. We have one on the institutional side. They're both monthly, and we have one on the more nimble side. The more nimble side might be applicable to your readers and listeners. It's $99 a month. You can cancel at any time. It will give you the insights into spin-offs. We also have a special situation publication as well, which is the same price. There's a free month if you sign up for a year, but it really gives you the insights into the calendar, into what's coming up, and it gives you a good deal of research and good deal of numbers which you can't get out there. And we have a lot of users on that who, big and small, use it for say, Jim, look, we do our own research, or the smaller guys who really rely on it. So across the board, really, who use that, and that might be something that they can look. They can go to the website edgecgroup.com, tick on Nimble Investors, and just go to the page, or fill in the contact form, and one of us will give you a call.
Okay, thank you very much. We are very happy, and thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the speech that we have learned a lot with you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jim, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys, and check in anytime you need to.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Bueno, pues gracias una vez más en Casting Strategies. Esperamos veros en próximos vídeos y no olvidéis suscribiros al canal y darle like si os ha gustado.